welcome to this afternoon's Planning and Environmental Protection Committee. Go through a few announcements first. I'd like to begin by welcoming those members of the public that have joined us today and those that have joined us online, the press, etc. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. If members of the public in attendance need to use the facilities, they're located at the back through the door that you came through reception and opposite the Bewitched Coffee shop. Please note, if a fire alarm sounds, you are to make your way to the nearest fire exit and continue to the assembly point, which is in front of the multi-storey car park outside the rear of San Martin House. If the alarm is an intermittent sound, this indicates we are in a lockdown. Please remain in your seats and await further instructions. Can also remind everybody present to please put your phones on silent or switch them off during the meeting. Thank you. Item 1 then is apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Warren and Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Walsh is in attendance as substitute.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Walsh, for filling in. Item 2 then is declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? No? Good, thank you. Item 3 is declarations to make representation as a ward councillor. No, none of those as well, thank you. Item 4 then relates to the minutes of the meeting on the 10th of December 2025. These are page 3 in your packs from the 10th of December. Could I have an approver, please, or a proposer that these are a true account? Councillor Mood?
Yeah, Chair, I'd propose that, yeah.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Bond? Thank you. Are they okay? Everybody else agreed on that? Yes, that's agreed. Thank you very much. Item 5 then relates to the development, control and enforcement matters. Item 5.1 is for the Crescent Centre, Rightwell West, Bretton in Peterborough. And the report starts on page 7 of your packs. Please can I ask Karina Adams when you're ready to introduce the item. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Okay, good afternoon, members and public. So this application relates to the library within the Crescent Centre in Bretton. The application is to seek a partial change of use, so to retain the library element with the introduction of a Class E use, and in this particular application it relates to a dementia resource centre. Just a quick update, there was a revised application form received. This just related to confirmation of the staff numbers and the floor area proposed. This is in line with the previous plan submitted, so it doesn't change officers' views at all. There's also 3 additional neighbour representations received. However, these did not raise any new matters and therefore are already covered in the report. So the key issues for this application relate to the principle of development and parking. So obviously these are set out in full within part 5 of the officer report. However, briefly, the principle of development is considered to be acceptable in regards to LP 30 of the local plan, which relates to the new community facility. And parking is also considered to be sufficient for the site, given the location and the fallback position, again, which is set out in full in section 5 of the report. So this is just a couple of site plans. So the one on the left just gives a bit more context. You can see on the right, the red line is actually the library unit, whereas the blue line is around the whole Crescent Centre. And you can see there that to the south of the Crescent Centre, there's existing parking. There's also the Bretton Centre, which is to the north. You can see where it's labelled Sainsbury's. So that's part of the Bretton Centre. And there's also parking available there. These are just a few images of the site. So there's no external changes proposed to the library. So this will remain largely unchanged. There is to be some internal alterations, which may be seen through the windows, but there's no actual external alterations, and internal alterations do not require planning permission and therefore are not considered relevant in this case. And these are just a copy of the proposed floor plans. So the orangey colour relates to the area proposed to go to the library. The blue relates to the Dementia Resource Centre, with the green, the shared areas. So as you can see, the entirety of the lower ground floor will be retained by the library. The upper floor will have the library is the large area with the Dementia Resource Centre having the computers in the corner, and the right-hand side, which is all on the ground floor itself as you come in. And then obviously the area shown in the green, as I said, is the shared area, and this is where you will enter the building. Okay, and that concludes the presentation. And thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Karina. Okay, we have one person registered to speak. Can I call on? Sorry. Yes. Okay, yeah, so that's wrong. Okay, so there's four people actually registered to speak, but it says one on there. So, yeah, okay, fair enough. We've received a request for 4 people to speak on this item. Please, therefore, can I ask Councillor Warren, who's the ward councillor, to come to the front, ready to address committee? Good afternoon, Councillor Warren. I'm sure you know the score by now. You have 10 minutes when you're ready to address committee.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for allowing me to address the committee on this issue that we have with the planning. Obviously, we're very passionate about libraries and what we do. We have to realise that this library is the second most used library in the whole of the town and city, which is quite a remarkable achievement when it's not touched a school. I'm going to talk a lot about why I feel this library is and is so important for the community and what it is. This is a safe place for a lot of people, not just in Breton. It goes for the wider scale. A lot of people will not use a library just because of their books. They go there to read a book, have that bit of safe space in what they're doing. This resource centre will take away that safe place that a lot of people feel that they have with this Breton Centre. We've got people speaking. I've spoken to people from as far away as from as from Woodston, as from Westwood and Neverton. So this library is very much a safe place in for what it does. This will actually affect a lot of people's lives and how they're doing it. We don't use this just as a library. There is a lot of groups that use this, and a lot of people use it because it's their kind of get out of things. You'll hear a lot of people from different centres, different places that use it. It's the only time they get out from the house right now. They use it to be alone in that situation, so they have that chance to talk to people, chat to people about their situations. There is a lot of groups operating in this. So I see this not just as a library, and we have to get away from that terms. This is the heart of the community right now, where people go to feel safe in what they're doing right now. This resource will damage what it says because it takes away the main floor, the main feel of this library right now. And a lot of people will not be able to access the library in the way they could do in the previous terms of what they have right now. And it's how it will tackle and the impact on what it has now for those people's lives and what we have. I looked at this library. I looked at what was going on. I listened to the evidence from the actual council, took that meeting what it is, and I listened to the people that were actually using the library. I asked myself that one question: how would I feel if I had a family member that was put into this resource centre? How does that feel right now? Clearly, from the evidence that I've listened to, I kind of was saying that actually I'm not comfortable for the dementia. So I'm not just speaking on behalf of Breton and my residents. I feel I have a duty to speak on behalf of the people that have dementia, because I feel that this centre is going to be just a box that people with, and we have to be lightened on what we have. Dementia is a very serious disease and a very awful disease, and I would encourage everyone to see and understand about what people go through with dementia right now. this is why I don't feel this is actually a suitable location for it. We have to look at what the access points are, and I'm quite surprised they haven't mentioned, because it is a little bit of a travel distance away from Bretton Centre. It is a little bit of a distance travel away from the car park behind ourselves. We have mentioned car parking, but they've not mentioned that actually the car park in Bretton Centre is only 4 hours long, and the car park behind, pretty much during the day, is full. So I would like to know where these people are going to park, because they can't use Bretton Centre car park for more than 4 hours, and they're proposing 6 hours of what they're doing. So where are they going to park in that situation right now? I mean, I have stated the planning reasons of what I can see, and you can see it is a very unique building that we have right now. We have that beautiful window, which is unlike any other building or any other library what we have, and they're proposing to put a brick wall kind of infeast that wall, that library. They're not changing it, but it's going to change the look and feel because of that brick wall that we're going to put in that situation that we have. So I would quite happily realise that actually the library needs to change, but I just don't think it's this plan that needs to be changed. We are pretty acceptance that actually we need to have something else in that library. We know that we've got some extra floor space in what we do, but I don't feel that we would be accepting this plan. We would always have a look at other plans and look at other situations to kind of fit the feel of what we need to do with this library to make sure it fits the community needs, community requirements, to make sure it enhances what we've got in that library as a heart of the community. I'm hoping that you will look at this plan and see and realise that actually there's a lot more that goes on with this library, and it's all water cans, and you will decline this planning application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. Members, do you have any questions, please? Councillor Mood.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I just have a question for Scott, whether he could clarify it on planning context about why he feels that this, we should be supporting his position. So if you could just clarify planning context, that would be great. Thanks.
Certainly. When I did the original application, or when I did the biblical objection, I did it on LP16 and LP17, the look and the feel of the property. We have that really beautiful glass window. If we're going to stick a brick wall, and it's just going to be a concrete brick wall in front of that window, if hopefully when you do the visit and everything else, you see how much light that brings to that library, how much darker that's going to feel, how much different that's going to change the atmosphere of that place. That, I don't think that justice. It's quite a big window in what it does. So that's why I've done that, and that's what the plan applications is, the change and feel of not just the library, but the whole of the centre. And that's what I'm fighting.
Thank you. Councillor Anjep, your question. You got a question? Oh, I've got Councillor Antunes then.
Thank you, Chair. You say that this proposal will take away a safe place. Can you explain your rationale for that, please?
Yeah, because a lot of people right now, we all know how difficult it can be for some people, dealing with mental health, dealing with that kind of pressures of what we have we do in life. And a lot of people that I've actually spoken to, I won't name them, that actually go there to actually feel like they want to have a bit of time out. They go there not to kind of take those books out, but just to read a book, to give them that space in what they're doing right now. It's that feeling of actually, I'm having a bit of a bad day, I'm having that bit of situation, I can go to the library, I know the library's open, I can go and have my time out, I can have my little space, having my situation right now, and I can feel better about myself by calming myself down in that situation.
Thank you. I'm not sure that addresses the safety issue, but would you perhaps not accept this as a community space, and we have a number of users there, quite a broad spectrum, and would it not be better that children meet those who suffer dementia, those from other community groups get together and understand how each other function and their issues within society and the community? I would have thought that would have been a benefit Would you not agree?
No, I wouldn't agree. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, it's also about talking about those people with dementia. We are putting those people, if you really understand about those people that are dementia, yes, we need to educate those children and everything else. But when you're going through that horrible disease, they're not going to be aware of those situations and what they're doing right now. And so putting them somewhere in an unfamiliar situation, an unfamiliar surrounding, putting them in around strangers is going to cause more distress for those people in dementia in those situations. So it will actually put a lot more harm into what they're doing right now, because it's actually going to put them in a very dangerous environment right now, because they're unfamiliar with that surroundings in what they have.
I would just say my understanding is that dementia users will generally be accompanied by carers or professional staff. So I do find it difficult to understand that argument. I do feel that mixing the community together here is a benefit. I personally do see that, and I haven't been convinced by your argument at the moment.
That's for debate later. You're asking questions.
I have asked the questions. Apologies, Chair. Thank you.
You can come up with debate for that later. Okay, Councillor Skibstead first.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just following on from Councillor Antunes about the safety aspects. From what I understood, and I went to visit the site, the dementia centre will be quite sectioned off away from the library. There's only a small amount of shared use. So the blue section is where they will be, and they'll be in that space where the library is the orange section, and that will remain for library users. So they'll be kind of separated. The only bit that's where there's shared use is where you come in. So I was just wondering in what way that's been taken care of in terms of the segregation of the users against the new users. So can you explain a bit more about why that's unsafe? Thank you.
I wasn't talking about the resource centre. I was talking about the distance to travel to the resource centre, because there is actually quite a distance to travel. For a person that has dementia, from the car park that's going to be used, they're probably going to be best used from the back of the Cresset, that is quite well used. There is also going to be some travel in that situation. And obviously as well, I didn't mention, but the lift never quite works in that Breton Centre. I'm not sure why. But obviously you've got, I'm not talking about the danger of actually the resource centre, but when we think about people who have dementia, thinking about the travel towards it, it's not a, when we've got the current DRC where now where the location is, they park up, they go straight in. With this centre, they've got to park up and they've got to walk, I think, probably a good 100 yards before they even get to the centre. So my safety concern wasn't to do with the centre, but was the travel from the car park to the centre.
Okay, thank you. I'm just not completely clear, because you mentioned when you first spoke that it was a safe space for library users and it would no longer be safe for them to be there. But I'm pointing out that we've got segregation within this new building, so they wouldn't be having to mix. So you were talking about the library users having a safe space, and they would no longer have that. And now you're talking about the car park. So can you explain
I got your question now. I didn't understand that's what you're talking about. So what I was talking about was the fit and feel. That we're talking about mental health here, and we're talking about that situation. And I'm seeing a lot more people that are struggling because of the cost of living, the cost of stuff. When you're situated with a building that's going to be in that front of that situation, people are not going to want to use that library in that situation. So they're going to look at it and go, I don't feel safe in this place. It's the people that go into that library who feel safe. And when they're looking at a building and they're going to walk straight in and see that building, they're just going to walk straight back out. They are not going to feel safe in that property. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm coming from those people who are not going to feel safe because they see that brick wall, they're having that bad time, they're going through that mental health situation, so they're not going to feel safe in that library because of where they are right now in that situation. That's what the argument was about.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I'm the third one to be concerned about this word safe, and it does raise a number of questions. I appreciate what you're saying. Have you had any reports from health professionals to support the views that you're putting forward? Or has anything been published? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just a substitute on today's meeting, but have we got something from health professionals that will help us deal with that particular issue? And albeit perhaps it's not even a planning issue, but it is important, so I think it's all right to ask that question.
Simple answer is no, we haven't got that evidence, but I don't think people realise that I actually deal with mental health and I know how people deal with these situations. I think the simple answer is no, but I know I deal with a lot of stuff with mental health, and when you're dealing with people that are anxious about situations, the simple things that we will see that they will think about, and it may be even those little tiny details. When you have someone who has a bit of mental health, a bit of anxiety, feeling not great about themselves, the simple things that we will see, we take no notice of. They will see every little detail, every little kind of situation, and overthink of what that situation is. And so when you are walking into a building that all of a sudden has got this brick wall, you're not going to feel safe in that place. That anxiety that you're going through, that situation that you're having, you know, I know when I deal with people like that, even them coming to meet me sometimes and talking about that situation, it takes a lot of courage to even come and see me. And I have to make sure it's the right fit and right feel, making sure it's the right venue that they're comfortable with and their situation, because they won't come see me, won't talk about that situation they need to do because they're not comfortable in that situation. And that's the change I'm thinking about.
If I can, as a follow-up, and maybe I ought to be, please advised if I should be putting this question later, on the issue, again, of safety. What about the users who are suffering from dementia? Is there a safety factor there for them? Has anything been published in that regard? Or have we been assured that there is no issue there? And perhaps that question ought to come at a later date.
Well, Councillor Walsh, we're questioning, obviously, Councillor Warren as the ward councillor, but you could put that question to officers if you want when we go to questions to officers if you think it's more suitable. So it's up to you. Do you want to answer it or do you want to...
No, I think you're perfectly right. I was just about to answer. I think that's more of a question for the actual officers to speak about that. And also maybe one of the people that are speaking for it, that may be more question for them.
Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. You've mentioned that this is the second highest used library within Peterborough. What are the opening hours for this one? Because my understanding is that it's open for limited hours rather than kind of a full-time facility there.
You are right, it is been limited hours, but it just shows you how much usage we are getting. It is limited, and we was looking at trying to not increase the hours, but just change them because we knew the need of the library and knew what it is. It is limited, but it just shows you from a limited resources, a limited what we have, we're still well used and well kind of used by the community. So yes, it is limited, but it's still very well used by the community for a lot of stuff.
So probably it might be fair to say that it is not fully utilized as it should be.
Yeah, and I can't accept that. And the thing is, like what I said in my address, I believe there is something in this library, but I don't think it's this plan. I think there's something that can be used that's going to be fully utilised in this library, that's going to be much more acceptable to the community needs that we have. So yes, we do realise acceptance that actually there is something to go in this library, just not this plan.
Councillor Antunes.
Thank you, Chair. The facts I have in front of me, I understand that the library is open at the moment 16 hours a week. The current proposals will allow it to open 40 hours a week. I just need a very short answer. Would you not agree that that would allow greater flexibility for access for your entire user group over that period? I'm not looking for a long answer, Chair. I'm just looking for a very short yes or no.
The actual facts is the library is not going to be increased on this Dementia Resource Centre. The library will still be only open for the public in that 16 hours. There is, as far as I'm aware, from what I've been told from the library, they're not looking at increasing the library times with this resource centre. They're going to keep it the same amount of hours.
Okay, Councillor Skipstead.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask you, could you agree that both user groups, both equally important user groups, can use this quite large space with the division that's been suggested and create safe space for both of these groups of users, and given that it's quite a large space and that there's time available for both of them? Do you think that, you don't think that's possible?
No, I don't. And like what I said, it's the location. It's the location of where it is and it's that fit and feel. With like what Councillor Mahood has said, the thing is, at the end of the day, it's going to disrupt the whole Brighton Library because you've got this library that you think, oh yeah, it's on the second floor. It's the second floor is the main entrance, the main floor that we have. So it's going to disrupt the whole feel and fit and finish of this library. Because unlike most libraries, the entrance point is the second floor, not the first floor. I think if the entrance was the first floor, that would be a different argument, different situation. So we understand that actually, yes, we need to have something in there for the community use, but I don't think this is the plan or even the right floor for this application.
Any further questions? Councillor Antunes.
Thank you, Chair. On our recent visit to the building, are you aware of the access arrangements, the electronic secure access cards that will be provided and the book the deposition? So again, to me, it feels as if the current arrangements have been considered for access and people will be able to access the library, you know, over that 40 hours or more per week and drop off books. It does seem that that has been considered.
I'm fully aware of what goes on with that library. I'm fully equipped with all of that. I'm fully aware of all what goes on, all the groups, everyone that uses it. So I am fully aware.
Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Yes, sorry, Chair. You thought you'd wound up then.
No, thinking time.
I'd just like to ask whether you talk about alternative uses, whether you have had any discussions with the people, the officers who are conducting the localities review as to whether there are any credible alternatives prior to this application.
I know this is not probably a planning thing.
Sorry, I have to stop it there. That's not relevant.
I was about to say the same thing.
It's not relevant. No, we're looking at this plan. I get where you're coming from, but the alternative is not on the table. What's on the table is what's on the table. So,
yep.
I get exactly where you're coming from there, Councillor Walsh. Anybody else got any questions? No. Councillor Warren, I just want a bit of clarity myself, if that's okay. You were quite vocal on the safe space side of it, that it being a very busy library. Just, you know, those of us that went on the site visit saw a lot of space that wasn't used in that library. So, as you said, when you come in the door, on the right-hand side would be the proposed dementia centre, you know, with the different rooms there. And you mentioned a lift which isn't for the dementia centre anyway, that would be for the library side of it, so that's immaterial from my point of view. But the safe space side of it, the fact that people that are coming have to go down a middle corridor, then up the stairs, you don't feel that is the safe space that you're referring to. I don't mean safety, I'm on about it, they feel that the people you're talking about, not dementia centre, your other constituents and visitors, that they're going in the door, through another door, up a couple of stairs or whatever, into that part of the library. Is that where you're really saying is because your original calling in was you've lost some space?
Yeah.
I agree you've lost some space, but you've got a lot of space.
Yeah, and this is the thing is, I agree, I've more looked at the fit and feel of it. I like what we were just about to discuss, but I do feel that, yes, there is a lot of space. I kind of agree with you, Chair, that there is a lot of space, but I feel this is the wrong plan. Right. At the end of the day, you know, like you say, when you walk in, you're walking straight into that, whether it's a catch of the eye or anything else, you're walking straight into that resource centre. So I do accept, and I think we've talked to a lot of residents, we accept that there is a lot of space in that library. We would be quite amenable to look at other options, to look at those situations, to kind of fill with that situation. We just don't feel this one is the right plan for that library, for the right community and the right needs and what we have right now. Because of, like what I talked about right with the first question, we've got that great big window, which is a real focal point. It's unusual to see for any library because it's normally a brick wall. That will change the whole feel of what they're going to see for the public that's walking by, the things that people see, because you've got this big window and then right next to it, you've got a big brick breeze block wall that's going to be right there in that situation. And then when you talk about that safe place, you've got to think about how people are going to react to change of circumstances, how they are going to feel when they've got these people into that, when they are feeling not the best in that situation, when they're going there to just have that moment where they can just tuck in a corner, forget about the world right now and just go and get themselves lost in a book in what they have. They are going to be thinking not about that book, they're going to be thinking about what's going on and what's happening, because that's the way they feel. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm also coming from where they are coming from, as I've talked to them from that situation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get it clear in my head, really. Because one of your comments was they're not able to access what they have now. So that's just in relation to the right-hand side?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. Right, okay, anybody else with any questions? No? Thank you, Councillor, thank you very much. Right. We'll now move on. Please can I ask Heather Hopper and Marion Barnard. Is there another one? I haven't got another name.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, right, okay, it's coming in. Sorry, I thought there was 2, 3. Hello, welcome to Planning Committee. I'm sure you've been told, if not, you'll have 5 minutes when you're ready between you to address committee. So please make the most of your time. The Democratic Service Officer will remind you when you've got 30 seconds left. If you want 30 seconds at around about 3 minutes, we can do that as well, so you know where you are. But anyway, welcome, you have that time, so please, as soon as you press the mic button, your time will begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm Heather Hooper. I'm a past carer. I'm a volunteer with the Alzheimer's Society. I'm a Dementia Friend Ambassador who spends time trying to educate the communities about dementia, helping to remove the stigma and the fear of dementia. I go out to schools, I go out to communities, and I go out to offices. So that's where I'm coming from. In this, I have not been, I have to say, I have not been involved with any discussions between the managements on the resource centre or commissioners or planners. I'm independent. I don't see an impact statement, the real reality of the daily challenges facing people with dementia. I don't see an appreciation or a step into the world of dementia, which is vital when making plans on behalf of the people within these plans. I appreciate this is a difficult task today, but please really listen. These plans are not suitable. It is the wrong location. At present, the resource centre sits in a secluded, safe, private area. It is a closed community. It doesn't warrant going into the general community. The closed community, it's a social group that intentionally limits interaction with outsiders. We're protecting, keeping them safe. I've visited the library a number of times and I've looked at the car parking. It comes and goes, you can get near. And the access to the library is open and light and spacious. But going into the building, it looks okay at the moment. But the petitions that are going to go into this building are going to lessen the space for both users. Let me take you into the raw reality. And perception is a great thing with dementia. A black mat can look like a hole. A shiny floor can look like ice. Being enclosed could make you feel threatened. Okay, you can't argue with dementia. If the sky is yellow, it's yellow. It doesn't matter, but I'm safe. At the moment, in York Road, it is a secluded community, if you like. It's safe. There are 2 large lounges for social events such as Singing for the Brain. I cannot envisage Singing for the Brain happening at all in the library. Libraries historically are quiet areas. Socialising, well, you know through the media that Singing for the Brain is vital. We may not have a conversation or understand words, but singing has an impact on music. You can talk to me and I have an understanding of words. I can visually assess a situation. But with the person that has dementia, they lose their daily skills. They lose understanding of words and cannot necessarily assess. So it can be somebody coming in may feel unsafe, may become agitated. They don't understand what's happening. So going back to where we are now, there is a joined up support system that houses the NHS memory clinic, support workers, rooms for activities, social activities. There is a kitchen that provides 3 meals a week at a low cost. There is a separate hairdresser room because,
Sorry,
again,
that's 30 seconds left.
like going into a hairdresser's...
Sorry, can I just stop you a minute there, please? This is so important to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people here, and your speak is fantastic, your speech. I'm going to ask committee to extend the speaking time for all involved in this.
Thank you.
I didn't have to ask, did I? Which is really good of you, thank you. So I'm going to change this from 5 to 10.
Thank you very
Which
much.
I will also give other speakers, so you'll have 5 minutes each. Okay, I think this is extremely important. We hear what you've got to say. So please carry on. We'll tell you when you get to 9.5 minutes. Okay? Obviously, you
Thank
can
you
finish
very
before
much.
that. Please
it is
carry
a
on.
very emotive subject, so yes. So there is a hairdresser. To go into a hairdresser in the streets, it's noisy. Okay, the hair dryers and the chatter. It's too much for some people. So there is a dedicated room for a hairdresser to go, and they can sit there quietly and have a chat. They feel safe because they understand it's quiet, the environment is okay. Dignity, privacy, it's secluded away from a major road and major foot pedestrians. So it isn't in your face. There is signage, is discreet. I feel that if you agree to these plans today, you are actually removing or you're exposing our most vulnerable people in society into an open arena where we have got a safe place now. What I want to try and ask for people to think about, because the sale has fallen through for this building, is that the resource centre comes into the picture when we're reselling. I would like prospective buyers to be told about the resource centre and a way forward to keep that centre there. It is a 5-star unique facility. There's nothing else nationwide like this centre, and it should be promoted. Peterborough should be positive and have something, not the negativity. It feels like it's firefighting, and I understand the reasons, and through no fault of our own or the library users' own, we've been put in this situation, and therefore we're trying to work together. But I want them to be part of the conversation because it's important you keep this unique 5-star support system there. It's a one-stop shop. If you are just going to put the support workers into the library, the carers who are already are in this situation they don't want to be, trying to help their loved ones, they're trying to support them, and they're trying to understand what's going on in your brain when we can't cope with what's happening to our loved ones. As I say, it's an emotive thing. So I'm losing my track a little bit here, but safeguarding and well-being and the downgrading of this wonderful centre is tragic. You are bringing people into an exposed area. I don't want you to make a desperate decision to reduce the council's debts. I want you to think about the impact on the people with dementia. I go into schools, I spread the word, I raise awareness. You can be opening people, the people that live with dementia, to ridicule because stigma is still there. There is no cure. There's no option of a brain transplant. We have some medications coming in now, but that has to be taken as soon as diagnosis takes place, and there is a problem there. That is another subject. So it's not going to help a lot of us. 1 in 3 people born today will have developed dementia by the age of 50. It is on the increase. We need all the support that we can gather to support our fellow human beings, because who knows, we might develop it. And I want that 5-star service to continue. We have not only been told to move out of the building, we have had the funding reduced by 51%. We've had 3 people made redundant. And now we're faced with trying to carry on working with you to support our people. The location is not right. If we can't involve the new buyers into keeping this here, please could we go back and take time and find a more suitable one-stop shop, like for like, keeping it all together. Thank you.
Okay. Good, thank you very much. Okay, questions, please, from anybody on committee. Sorry, I misnamed you. It's Hooper,
Heather
and I said
Hooper,
Hopper, didn't
yeah.
I? But it does say Hopper on here, so it's not my fault. Yes, Councillor Rush.
Thank you very much for a very passionate speech.
Thank you.
I think it's affected everybody in this room. We heard from Councillor Warren about how it would affect the residents who use the library who've got mental health. Could you just explain how it would affect the people with dementia to be in a situation where you have got lots of people walking about, please?
Yes, it's a general. Some people, depending on their diagnosis and where they are on their journey, may be able to cope with people and small spaces. Other people may not be able to. It's an individual journey. Not all the users will have a supporter with them. There are people that use the centre who come alone because they feel safe going there, I suspect. I think the people with dementia are living in a confused world, and they're already very distressed they've been told they're going to move. So when are we going to move? Well, what's it going to be like? The anxiety is already building, and it's backfiring onto the carers as well. So it's an individual journey, so I can't say, I can just say generally, and because of the dementia, it affects, you know, if it is a dark, narrow, and looking at the library, that room on the right looks nice without any alteration, but you're going to put a passageway in, so you're going to create a smaller space. And I don't see any space there for the social events. You can have 30, 40 people turn up for a meal, for a social event. Socialising is key to helping them to live well with their dementia. Because if they don't feel comfortable, they will isolate, they won't come, they'll isolate themselves, their demeanour will go, the self-esteem will go, and the journey of their dementia will rapidly decline.
Thank you. Anybody else? Further questions? Yes, Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Thank you very much for your speech. I'm definitely moved by it, and the current Dementia Resource Centre you talk about is actually in the ward that I represent. So I know exactly the sort of service that you are delivering. But just to clarify, what you're saying is that the current proposals won't be sufficient for a Dementia Resource Centre. If you could clarify that, that'd be great. Thanks.
Because there won't be any room for the socialising. It will just be an office where they'll meet with their support workers. At the moment, as I say, there are social events, there are activities, they have quizzes, they have the POSH, the football team, they support a Keep Fit class. They have discussions on daily, general knowledge, etc. They have activities. But also, while the people that are living with dementia, if they are in a group, their carers have time to sit together with a cup of tea, because the cafe is there, they can get a cup of tea, bit of cake, and they can sit and support each other whilst the people with dementia are at an activity or whatever. So it is a safe place for confidential conversations. Nobody wants to be pointed at and say, oh, look, that person's gone in that building, they must have dementia.
Thank you.
We need to create a dementia-friendly city.
Councillor Skipstead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for your speech. It was really helpful for us to get more of an insight into your user group. Can I just clarify what you're saying is you understand you may have to move from where you are, but this is just not the right place, but somewhere else might be. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's not the correct one. If the centre can't stay in that situation under a new buyer, then I would like you to be looking at a similar premises where we can keep it the same, because what will happen is at Bretton it will be the office and the support workers. So where are we going to go for Singing for the Brain? Where are we going to go and get 3 hot meals at a lower cost? It's not free. Where can I go to a hairdresser? There is a hairdresser almost opposite the library, but it's a public one. So we're not giving the right support. So this 5-star facility I keep banging on about is going to be broken. And it's already been stated in the media last week. In the media, I emphasise that the NHS Memory Clinic won't be joining us, which means additional strain on the carers of the loved ones, who then have to struggle to get their person up and ready out, not for that one-stop shop where they can go and relax, they can stay as long as they like. They've we've got to go here now for Singing for the Brain. Oh, we've got to go here for somewhere else. You're adding more stress into that area and more confusion to the person with dementia.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Antunes.
Thank you, Chair. Again, to echo everyone else, very, very informative, and it's good to know that you've got direct experience in that area as well. When you say you haven't been involved in this particular project, do you know if the current attendees have been consulted at all on any of the designs? Are you aware of anyone putting an input?
I think I support the resource centre because my role manager, because I'm a dementia friend ambassador, was based there. She's now gone. She was the volunteer development officer. So I get work from them to do these presentations. But that continues. So I'm not working within, I'm working outside, if you like. So, and I haven't, because I'm not what we call a service user, my mum's been gone 10 years now. This facility wasn't around when I really needed it. I was sort of solo in going on that journey. So I just want to say I've not been party to any involvement or objections from any groups, and I've not been party to planning. It's as an independent, so I'm just on the peripheral, if you like, and supporting. So I do all sorts. If they ring up and say, we've got a check presentation, can you do? Yes. We've got a presentation, can you do? So I work in that manner, but not, it is too emotionally close for me to work directly with the groups.
Could I say, though, that when my father first went...
Sorry, could you just use the mic for me, just so we got... Can you just press the mic? Just so we can...
Could I just say, though, that when my father first went into a care home and he started to develop dementia, these people were very good to me in helping me to understand how I had to learn to live with him, because it is quite difficult. I suppose many people know that how you learn to live with that person, then they have become so different from the father you knew all your life, who helped to look after you, who did the work for you in your house, that you couldn't mend the electrical stuff or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden he doesn't even know how to put his own boots on, you know, that kind of issue. And this organisation were so helpful to me. You know, they gave me 3 talks over the telephone, and you know that is the work that they do, and which really helps so many individuals, I'm sure, in this town.
Marion, would you mind if I come in there and just, as you hadn't had a chance to speak as such, as a user, probably more than anything, what's your views on what's proposed about the centre?
I've come to speak about a group that meets in South Bretton Library, and how we feel that this issue is not something that should go ahead. You know, the library has got to be used by another group or groups because of financial issues in this day and age. We all know that we've got to share and we've got to spread out expenses, but no, it is not the way forward as far as the people I was talking to last week. I mean, Councillor was there last week talking to us, and that was how this meeting came to be known to the group of us that have turned up today. Yeah, I mean, I've put down some bullet points. I'm not very good at remembering things off by heart, but there are many people who attend the library. They vary in age, culture, beliefs, backgrounds. The library's setup is currently safe. It's comfortable. It's a short walk from the bus stop, so it's easy to get to. It's a very short walk for some people to come from their homes, because there's quite a few houses, as you know, in Bretton that are situated there. The building's 3-floor design means that several community groups, meetings and activities can be accommodated. And that's what's going to be affected if the dementia group move in there, because it will just make such a difference to either the knitting group sitting in one corner, or the playing children in another group where they're singing, or the people who are trying to do computer learning in another corner. It will really make a difference to that library. The available lift is small. It was created for a trolley to take boxes from the ground floor to the upper floor, not carry the person who's filling the shelves. This means wheelchair users and individuals who have problems with the stairs will no longer be able to easily access the rearranged library. And we understand...
Sorry, Ms. Barnett.
Sorry. Did you want to stop?
Your 10 minutes are gone, so we can't go through all of it again. So
I beg your pardon.
I get you've had that bit, so please limit it to
2 different sides.
Direct answers to each question is the best way to go about it at this point now. So, because those questions might come up for you. Yeah. That's why I gave you the opportunity as to what your view was regarding, because we are a planning committee. Yes. So, although we're trying to get to the group here, trying to get to the point of, is this suitable in this location? Will it fit? Does it work? So, from your point of view, I want to know what's your view on that from the people you speak to in your own personal experience.
That's what I'm saying. That
It won't fit.
That the numerous groups that use it,
Yeah.
do not
Okay.
want it to be there.
That's perfect.
And
Thank
for
you.
those reasons that I've tried to point out.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be other questions for you, but that's
Okay.
fine for me. Thank you. Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Chair. Access to the first floor, is there a lift?
There is a lift, yes. But
Is
it's
it-
the
is it-
style, it's the style of it that's the question.
So can I just ask, you mentioned that you understand we have to share buildings at this time. So this may not be strictly a planning question, but can you imagine a group that you would be able to share it with, and how that would work? If this group isn't the suitable group, because the things you're bringing up, that it would affect the groups that are already there, wouldn't that be the same for any group that came in and used that space and shared that space with you?
Well, at the discussion that went ahead last week, that somebody mentioned Citizens Advice Bureau, if they came into the library and took over a few of the little rooms to speak to people who had problems. I don't think Citizens Advice Bureau exists in Peterborough anymore, does it? You have to do it online. But it's always something that's nice to have on a one-to-one. And there are a lot of people that still don't use the internet. So I can't understand how elderly people can get any citizens' advice now without going to Cambridge.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that, because that is going off on a tangent.
I
It's,
know.
we've not
But-
before, we can't make a decision, somebody
No,
else can do that.
I know you can't.
So we have to be a little bit careful with that. We don't stray too far, but the question's a fair question. Any other questions relating to this? No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your addresses. Okay. And I call now Chris Pike, please. Chris represents the applicant in this case. Hello, Chris. Welcome. As I afforded 10 minutes and the committee agreed for the objectors, you too, if you require it, have 10 minutes to address committee when you're ready.
That's the right one, isn't it? Pressing the green button. Thank you, Chair. What I'd like to do is I'll first introduce myself, give you a very brief overview in terms of how we've got to where we are now, and then actually I would like to address some of the planning concerns that are raised in the application, and that's a statement that our project managers and design consultants have prepared on our behalf. So, firstly, so my name is Chris Pike. I'm a principal development surveyor within the Strategic Assets team. This project came about as part of, as we were saying earlier, a locality review, something that the estates team are working on, basically trying to improve the use of assets, stress assets, and really ultimately trying to get best value for the taxpayer. So in this scenario, obviously the 441 Lincoln Road was identified as an asset that actually was costing the council quite a lot of money. So as part of the locality review, it was identified that it would be sold. And as a result of that would be displacement of some of the services within there. So in this case, it would be the Dementia Resource Centre. So we've been working very closely with the Dementia Resource Centre, the Alzheimer's Society, and Adults Commissioning team to look at options for the relocation of this service. We looked at our existing assets, which include, in this case, asset spaces at at the Crescent Centre. And then we looked at opportunities within the Crescent Centre for spaces that might be available. So we naturally looked at 3 different spaces, and out of all spaces that we considered, it was the library that was considered to be underutilised. It was open 16 hours a week out of available, I think it's 54 hours per week. I understand that is due to feasibility of running it open the hours longer than that. That's the reason it's at 16 hours. So we saw an opportunity, a way to sort of better use the space and bring that, sort of improve that community function. what I'm now going to do is just to read the planning statement, if that's okay. So this came from Pick Everard, who are, as I said, our project managers and design consultants. So the application seeks to approve the change of use of the property located at the Brexit Centre, situated within the Crest Centre in Peterborough. As we've already heard, the application seeks to change the use of part from Class F2D for the use of the Dementia Resource Centre to Class E, Medical and Health Services. That's actually wrong. It's basically from a library use to a Dementia Resource Centre use. The change of use reflects approximately 1/3 of the total floor space. So I think the library are actually going to be retaining 64% of the total floor area, and the remainder will be taken by the Dementia Resource Centre. The design itself has gone and is undergoing various iterations, taking into consideration the comments from the commissioning team leads at Adults in the Library Services and their service operators. The DRC space has been designed to achieve the standards as outlined in the Health Building Note, Issue 1, General Design Guidance for Healthcare Buildings, and also Dementia-Friendly Health and Social Care Environmental Department of Health 2015. This includes the acoustics, good visibility and visual access, promoting privacy, supporting wayfinding and navigation through corridors. Furthermore, the design ensures the compliance with the relevant building regulations. So now what I would like to do now is just address some of the key concerns from residents around the use of the DRC in part of this space. So the objections raised focused on planning concerns related to principally change of use, accessibility, and fire safety. So concerns have been raised by consultees about mixing library uses and dementia patients within the same space. Careful spatial planning and safeguarded measures are essential to ensure both groups can be used in the building without conflict or disruption. To address this, the proposed layout places the DRC used on the ground floor with a separate social, consultation and activity area. Other measures include the provision of separate WCs and direct access to WCs from the large group room that would hold up to about 33 people at one time. The library facility are positioned principally on the upper ground floor and lower ground floor. However, there is still space on the ground floor for some book storage, book returns, and also that shared community space. Users will have the choice where they spend their time as they visit, and this includes, and basically they can take a view whether they want to sit in the shared social space of the library or the safe space within the actual designated area for the Dementia Resource Centre. One other concern was raised around fire safety concerns. To address this, a fire engineer has prepared a fire strategy to comply with Building Regulations Part B. This includes installing smoke detectors and upgrading the fire alarm, provisions of fire-rated walls, fire doors, adequate escape routes and protected lobbies. The measures aim to ensure the safety of all users. The library and DRC were responsible for writing their own risk assessments and procedures, but the council will control the overall fire strategy. The third point, just to raise, so there was concerns have been raised about the accessibility of around design, particularly around the current platform lift, which was considered in some cases unsuitable for some mobility scooters. The design ensures that the Alzheimer's Society facility, who have a greater reliance on mobility, will be based on the ground floor, and the library, principally on the lower ground and upper ground floor, will be retained, with some ground floor areas retained also. The lift will remain in operation, as it does now, and operational procedures will be implemented to support the library users with reliance on the lift to move around the building. These objectives are based on key planning considerations under the UK planning law, including inclusive design under National Planning Policy Framework, paragraph 92 to 130, and safe access and layout, Building Regulations, Part B and M. if it's okay, I'm going to finish there.
Yes, fine. Thank you very much. Okay, any questions, please? Councillor Rush and Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chair. We heard from the lady, I can't remember your names. She's a dementia champion. She says that this proposal is not fit for purpose. But in your speech, you said you'd been talking with the Alzheimer's Society. What was their conclusion, please?
So principally, as a surveyor in the development team, we do take our instructions from our commissioning team within the council, but the Alzheimer's Society have been engaged throughout the process. So there have been, I'd say, at least 2 meetings on site to discuss the layout, their concerns, how they'll be addressed. So as an example, an early iteration, we were going to put the group rooms on the first floor, and what they said was actually during an activity, if the fire alarm went off and they needed to get 20 people downstairs at the same point in time, it would be very difficult for them to do so, which is the reason we listened to their advice and their knowledge and relocated these sort of the main group spaces to the ground floor. Clearly, there is a big difference between the space they've got now and what they have under this proposal. The actual spaces, the actual room sizes are pretty similar in terms of what they've got. My understanding is that the service specification has changed in terms of what financially we can offer the Alzheimer's to deliver the service. So things like the hairdressers and the cafe, which were, I guess they were an important part of the current operation, are no longer able to be delivered under the new proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much. A very similar question actually occurred to me. You say the Alzheimer's Society was consulted. Can you tell me, were they consulted on the basis of this is a fait accompli and this is going to happen, and so therefore what's the best we can make of it if it were to go ahead? Or were they asked the question rather, is this suitable for these users? And if it's not, what would be? In other words, was it an open or closed question that was put to them? And who actually gave those opinions? And was it just the Alzheimer's Society? Or were there other health professionals consulted?
If I may, and sorry to put him on the spot, but I wonder if I could turn to Oliver Hayward just for some support in terms of obviously from a property professional, I will deal with the building, but some of those early conversations may have happened prior to myself getting involved. I don't know if you can help at all.
I need to ask committee if they're all right with that.
Sorry,
Are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll come forward.
Do you mind just repeating the questions? Is that okay? Is that okay? Or did you capture what?
Yes, of course. I'm sure I'll record it, but
thank you.
I'll say it again. I'm particularly interested in who, in the world of health and expertise in matters of dementia, who were consulted. Was it the Alzheimer's Society only? And on what basis were they consulted? Were they consulted on the basis of, look, this is what we're going to do, and how do you think you can make it better or make it the best we can possibly do? Or were they asked the open question, do you think this is a good idea? And if not, do you have any other ideas? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Walsh. If I could just introduce myself, I'm Oliver Hayward. I'm the Service Director for Commissioning for Peterborough City Council. The situation was set out to the Alzheimer's Society around budget and financial challenges, and that the 441 Lincoln Road, or York Road, the Dementia Resource Centre, as is, was being sold. We identified Bretton Library as an opportunity, but wanted to understand from the Alzheimer's Society, and specifically them, in terms of your question, not other health professionals, how they would see that working, given the space that was available. As Chris has said, there was a couple of on-visit sites to understand what could be done, and these are the plans that we've come up with, some various iterations. We continue to meet with the Alzheimer's Society on a weekly basis to understand any changes to the situation following a service specification change, which was a result of a funding reduction for the Dementia Resource Centre.
So to be absolutely clear, the Alzheimer's Society are perfectly happy with the arrangements that you would like to have this shared space. They see no issues or problems with it.
I would say they are accepting. I think perfectly happy would probably be a stretch. I think everyone in the room would always want more money for dementia services, given where we are. But they are accepting of the move or the proposals to move to Bretton Library.
Sorry, they are accepting on the basis of the economics of the situation, or accepting on the basis of health issues and requirements of the user group?
Accepting on the 2 points. So the financial challenges the changes have happened. They're accepting on the basis that they can deliver the service specification that's set out under contract in the Bretton Library Centre.
Okay. Much as it pains me to do this, our job today is the planning side of this. And it's difficult to separate the two. But I'll just remind you to think that, you've got to think in two different directions on here. There's lots of emotion and lots of passion, and one would totally understand that, me too. But we need to, when we get to the end of this, think on planning grounds, not necessarily the service, a bit difficult, whether the service could go in there and fit. Yeah, under planning reasons. So
Can I ask you
I just don't want to get too involved in whether or not somebody was happy about it. I get the questions again, but they are not very strong reasons for refusal or approval. We have to be sure on planning grounds, will it go in there? Is it safe to go in there? Will it do what we want it to do? So just be careful. Councillor Skipton.
I was just going to say...
Hang on a minute, I've got... our lawyer's got involved. Hello, Emma, welcome. Emma.
Good afternoon, thank you. Just to kind of support our chair, today the question, because we're making a decision as a local planning authority today, not as anything else, and the question we're being asked is, does the proposal accord with our development plan, or are there material considerations? That is the question we're being asked. We're not being asked, is this a good idea? Do we like this? Do we support this personally? It really is. Members are being asked, does this accord with our development plan? And that's the question that we're being asked this afternoon, irrespective of, obviously there's a lot of emotive issues around this, but that is the question that members are being asked today.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Skipstead, you were adding something.
I still have a question
Yep.
with regards to what's just been said. So, but we're being asked to decide whether the Dementia Resource Centre can go into Bretton Library. That's what we're being asked to decide today, isn't it? So it is a question of that suitability of that programme in that location. It's not about whether we just partition it off for anyone. It's about that Dementia Resource Centre coming there, isn't it?
I'm going to let Emma clarify again, just to make sure I don't say something.
Through
I should.
you, Chair, thank you. So we're just being asked, can that library use, that F1 use, part of that be used for a Class E use? So it's not a personal use, it's not going to be restricted to dementia. That's obviously the applicant's intention. However, that's not the question we're being asked today. It is it acceptable in planning terms to change that F1 use, part of that, into an Class E use? That is the question we're being asked.
Yeah, I'm going to bring... Phil, you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. So just to expand on what Emma was saying, the current use, Class F, includes not just library, it includes education, art gallery, museum, public hall or exhibition hall, public worship or religious instruction, law court. So there's a whole lot of uses that could take place there now under Class F. Library is only one of those. And what's been applied for here is to convert part of that current F1 use to E1, which includes also a whole range of different uses within that E class. So you've got retail, sale of food and drink, financial services, professional services, indoor sport and recreation, fitness, medical health services, creche, day nursery, day centre, office, research and development, industrial process. So that's a whole range that it could be. It's not pinned down to just a dementia centre or a library.
So I was just going to add to that the decision, which is what I was going to say, as to whether it happens is not ours. That's the administration's decision to make that decision. Is that right? It's theirs to make that decision whether they're going to move it. Ours is whether or not, as is quite right, this fits under the local plan. So while we've had a lot of emotion, and I wanted that to happen, I didn't want to cut that off. I didn't think that was fair to cut that off. We mustn't, my advice to you is you mustn't go down the line, is I don't want the dementia centre to move. If that's your reason, it's not good enough under planning. Yeah, that's an administration's decision. It's nothing to do with us as planning. So we're not to deal with that. So it's a difficult one. I get it. Emotions are there. I get it. But please concentrate on the planning reasons. And if you're not sure, that's why the officers are. We're going to get there eventually to officers to ask those questions to try and formulate your decision at the end. Okay. So we got any further questions for Chris or whatever? Yes, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Actually, I came into this meeting knowing that, and yet you can't help hearing what you hear, suddenly realising that there is so much to this which kind of takes you away from that cold, hard decision that we're being asked to make. It would have been much easier if this committee had just been asked, are you happy with change of use? Never mind the dementia, who the uses are, who they aren't, just would you be happy with change of use from this to this? And we could all have gone and had lunch by now. And I'm not being critical now, I'm just saying that is the reality because it's become extremely difficult. The kind of remarks we've been making, the questions we've been making, belong in another forum. And I think, Chair, what you've said, that will it happen, is very important. And I think that those debates ought to be had in another forum as to whether it's actually going to happen. So, sorry, further comment from me.
It's okay, that's for debate, which you'll have a chance to bring in again. But any other questions, of course, for the officers? Yes, Councillor Antunes.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one. In consultation with other councillors, I understand there was a fairly large community engagement consultation meeting arranged about the centre with 60 to 70 people being involved across all the user groups. Going through the planning documentation, the supporting documentation, I don't see any reference to the outcome of that meeting, which to me seemed quite an important aspect in looking at this proposal. Can you enlighten us onto that? Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was unwell for the actual event itself, but there was a consultation with key groups within the the library, and also, there was a consultation predominantly with the key group or stakeholders that use the library, and then there was a separate consultation with the Dementia Resource Centre and the Alzheimer's Society. But that one you were talking about was purely for the library services and their users. So I think it was ward members, and there was probably about 4 or 5 groups, and I believe, yeah, there was 50 to 60 people attend that.
Sorry, my question is, it seemed quite an important consultation aspect, and I would have expected it to be within, because we've got we've got individual comment on the proposals. I would have felt that should be here.
I don't believe under this application we were required to formally consult, but we decided actually that it was important to consult with those end users. So apologies if it was meant to come into the application in some way, but we we consulted with the relevant users, we took their thoughts and their advice and their experience on board, and that fed into the design.
Thank you. But it does leave questions, for me anyway, in that particular aspect. I have one more question, which is regards the, again, it's planning related, so it will be directly relevant to this. In terms of the user groups, I would have expected again, and touched on, that the specification for space planning, utilisation, etc., would all have been defined with those user groups and access, etc. That specification then tested against this property or this proposal, and then awaiting an agreement made. The question is, have you got that specification and the criteria for assessing this? And two, at what stage was that applied? Was that applied only when this option was the only option, or was it applied when we were looking at the bigger spectrum of other options?
So the specification, the service requirements was agreed quite early on. I believe it was before we looked at the Bretton Library and the Cresset as an option. But the Cresset Centre was identified as the preferred location given the complementary services within the centre, but also the highways and transport, the accessibility of the facility.
Sorry, final chair.
Just the thing is, we're not going into building regs. That's
Wrong.
not planning,
Okay,
that's
thank
building regs. So just be, if you've still got a question, if you're fine, but let's not get into building regs because that's not what we're here for either. So we have to be careful. Have you got any more, or is that no, that's fine. Okay. Any other questions, please? No? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Right. Questions to officers? Who's going to lead with that one then? Councillor Rush.
Going to make use of the planning officer here today. I think the planning highways object to this planning application. Could you spell out the reasons why, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, through you. Highways have objected on the basis that there is insufficient information to fully assess the proposals. We'd requested a parking survey of the existing Cresset car park to demonstrate that there's adequate space within that car park for the additional Class E use to take place at the same time as the existing consented uses in the area. Because obviously the library, although it's only being used for 16 hours a week, does have consent to be open more than that. And there's a lot of other uses around that area that all use the same car park. We're also aware from previous applications in the main Bretton Centre area that the main Bretton Centre car park is nearing capacity. So it was a request to demonstrate that there's adequate parking along with the drop-off and various other facilities required for this use in close proximity to the site, and it wouldn't result in parking on the highway and therefore creating a highway safety issue.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Councillor Skipstead.
Thank you, Chair. Following on from that, we heard that there's only 4-hour parking. So would that be changed for Dementia Resource Centre users? What could something be done about that if they're using the centre for more than 4 hours?
No, it's not for you to do, is it? It's private car park.
The 4 hours is in the main Bretton Centre car park, the big Sainsbury's car park. There's the separate Cresset car park, which I don't think has the 4-hour restriction on it, and that wouldn't be something that would be in the gift of the local authorities to secure anyway.
Councillor Ransdale, got you? Yeah, then you.
Yeah, thank you. My question was mainly again on the highways. It said that there is notes to follow. Have you been updated on that as yet or not?
Yeah, you did get an update report, but if you want to, what's your position at the moment for Councillor Ransdale?
Yeah, the updated, so there was a transport statement requested, which was provided during the course of the application, and then there was also an updated planning application form submitted recently, which clarified the floor areas and the number of staff. That additional information in terms of the application form doesn't change the highway's position in that it's not been demonstrated that there wouldn't be a highway safety issue as a result of potential parking problems, and that there is actually sufficient parking for the uses on site.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, looking at the proposal, part change of use to retain part as Class F1 and construct petition to be used under Class E, health centre clinics. Would it be possible that today's vote is just restricted to that? Is it absolutely necessary that we include wording with regard to Dementia Resource Centre, we specify that that will be its use? Can we not just agree that yes, we are fine with change of use in principle?
Yeah, so the application is just for the change of use. The conditions have been listed within the recommendations, and there's no proposed condition to restrict it specifically to the Dementia Resource Centre. It's for the full change of use.
So, to be crystal clear then, we are not, to say it today, deciding that it is the Dementia Resource Centre ought to go ahead and be moved into that location. We're saying, yes, change of use, we as Planning Committee could agree to, and that is all.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Could I just ask officers for their response to highways? Is this just a matter of opinion, or because highways are pretty clear that there's, they've not had their traffic report or statement, so they can't really assess whether there's a problem. So is it just, planning officers believe it's not going to be a problem, or is there any particular fact to that?
Yeah, so a bit of both, to be honest. So the local plan obviously sets out the parking standards within Appendix C. For this class, there's no actual standards required. It's a maximum standard rather than the minimum. So as planning officers, obviously, we have to take into account the highways view. That is a material consideration. But obviously, we have to assess it in the context of the local plan. And as I said, there's no actual parking provision requirement. And nonetheless, there's also the fallback position of the demand of parking that can occur on that site across the Crescent Centre and Bretton Centre, and the different uses that could be just put in there and the required parking. So obviously, officers have now taken the on-balance view that the development would be acceptable with regards to parking, as it's also out under the Highway Safety and Parking Provision section in the officer report.
So can I just clarify then, sorry to push the point, that the rule is, in the local plan, it's a maximum, so there is no minimum, so effectively there doesn't have to be any.
Yes, Chairman, that is correct. It's a maximum standard. And we've, just to build on what Karina was saying, we've took the view that the amount of additional traffic and therefore parking that this change of use would generate is minimal in the context of the whole of Bretton Centre and the Crescent. The fallback position being that there are multiple uses within the Crescent and Bretton Centre which could and do intensify or de-intensify as time goes by. So it's like, we think it's well within reasonable parameters. We don't think that it is such a tipping point that any additional traffic generated would tip it into being totally unacceptable and causing highway safety issues. Okay. There's also the fact that different uses of the Crescent go on at different times of the day. So when you've got big entertainment shows on, which is likely to be in the evening, that's not likely to be the same time when the F1 and E uses are open. And equally, visitors to one of those might well be using other facilities at the same time. So it's not necessarily the fact that just because you have an additional use in there, it's automatically going to generate people come in who wouldn't come anyway.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else got any questions? Yes, Councillor Antonis.
Thank you, Chair. My question echoes my colleague councillor's question. The application was called in, my understanding is why it is here, under the premise that it was for the dementia centre, and it actually states that here. If we are purely looking at change of use classification, why was, one, a question to yourself, Chair, and to the officers, why was this application or this call-in permitted under the dementia centre heading? If we are simply looking at a change of use, this perhaps meeting has been a bit of a red herring, because the application has not been made, correct me if I'm wrong, by the user, Adult Social Services or whomever is going to be the commissioning organisation for this particular use. They have not approached us to use the building for that use. Or am I wrong?
So the details of the application, if you look at the plans, it does indicate various parts of the building as being library and dementia centre, I believe. But that falls within a use class, which, as we've mentioned before, can change to other uses within that use class without requiring a further permission. So just because they're showing it as a dementia centre on there, doesn't mean to say if it was permitted, that's the use forever, and it can't change. So we have to consider that.
Sorry, that doesn't really answer my question. The user has not made an application for this use. Therefore, why has the council been calling this application in when no application has actually been made to use it for the dementia centre? We're only here today for a change of use, which the entire documentation paperwork associated with this application centres on the dementia centre, as does our public speakers, etc. It seems to me, and again I echo the point made earlier, we are here today making a simple decision in which perhaps we shouldn't have been called to make this decision until such time as the commissioning agency, whoever it may be, applies to make an application for a dementia centre here.
So as I understand it, the councillor who referred the application to committee didn't just talk about dementia or library. There were planning issues that were raised, and it was a legitimate referral to committee in accordance with the Constitution. So that's why it's here today at committee.
Forgive me, but if I make reference to page 1 of the today's papers, it actually states very specifically dementia centre resource. It doesn't state his call-in about the use of the space as purely a classification use.
Could I, Emma, would you mind commenting on that? Because I think that's a very, very valid point, that we are being asked to look at something and it's been picked up on that all of a sudden it's change of use, not the dementia centre, yet the report does heavily sit on the dementia centre report. Just what's your take on that, please?
So the application is for a change of use from F1 to partly Class E. So that is the application. And if we look at the conditions, you can restrict uses within a use class via your planning conditions, and that has not been done in this instance. So although the applicant at this time, their intention is to put a dementia centre in, that's obviously a matter for them, and that's how things have been assessed. However, because there's no restriction in terms of the conditions, any class, anything within Class E could be used within this building, and that would be a lawful planning use.
Sorry, I probably didn't quite, I get exactly what you're saying, I think everybody's got that, is the fact that the whole report goes down the line of this will be the new dementia centre. So committee quite rightly are, and I've gone fell into the same trap as the chair, of listening to why it isn't good enough as a dementia centre in the view of people that have spoken. Then we're told, no, it's nothing to do with that, it's whether or not you want F or E. Is that right? I'm a bit perplexed like everybody else that isn't a particularly difficult decision, I don't think, for committee to have. The problem is emotion's been brought in. Maybe that's been done wrongly, but it's going to be very difficult for this committee now to just wipe that aside and go, well, is it F or is it E or is it F? Because I can guess where that's going, but you know, emotion's been brought in, and I'm struggling now to feel that this is going to be a fair decision based on the information they've got. We're over-informed, perhaps is the right word.
So obviously the applicant has got an intended use, but that's not the lawful use. It would be the lawful use if we gave the permission, but it would be for the applicant or any landowner, because we haven't restricted that use to use it in any one of those parts of Class E.
Councillor Skipstead.
Can we make a decision that we agree with the change of use, but we don't? We've listened to a lot of evidence about how it wouldn't be suitable as a dementia resource centre, so we can put that in that we don't agree with that, because it seems that we've been presented with a lot of evidence, but we're being asked to disregard it, and I don't think that's fair on the committee.
I think Phil's going to come back with it.
So just to reiterate, what you're being asked to make a decision on today is this an acceptable planning use for this site? You're not being asked whether it's appropriate for the council, with its property developing or property hat on, to move a dementia centre from one place to another. That's completely outside of the planning process, and a decision there is made by a different part of the council. So if you were to grant this planning permission today, it doesn't override that other function of the council's decision. It doesn't override any other legislation or regulatory regime that controls the way that health facilities operate. So, yeah, just bear that in mind, that today's decision is simply about, is this a suitable planning use for this site? I think something was mentioned about the lift earlier. Internal alterations do not in themselves require planning permission. They're not development in planning terms. So that is, if you were to grant this, you wouldn't be saying, no, that lift's got to stay as it is. You can't ever change it to something better. So it's purely the planning land use that you're looking at today. Is it appropriate or not?
Can I just...
Councillor Walsh.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So could I ask the question then, that were we to agree simply on change of use today, where this seems to be where we're going, a change of use as tested against a certain thing where a number of questions arose, but so we are just focusing on change of use. Could that change of use then be reversed should another applicant come forward and wish it for some other purpose? It wouldn't be written in stone, I'm assuming. We're just saying, yes, that's okay for today.
Yes, that's correct. Anybody can apply for planning permission on any land, and by granting permission, it doesn't bind one person to develop it in a certain way or use it for a certain use within a use class. So if planning permission be granted today, then, you know, theoretically somebody else could come along and implement another use within class E.
Skipstead, do you want something? It's questions, remember?
It was where we're debating, aren't we, at the moment? So I'm just...
questions.
Is it? I thought we moved on to debate.
With questions.
I have go back to a very simple question: is who has made this application?
So my understanding is is it Pick Everard? Pick Everard is the name of the company who have put the application in on behalf of the council. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
So Pick Everard have made the application on behalf of the council for change of use. Why has a councillor been allowed to call in application for a specific use when that was not what the application was made for?
So going back to what I said earlier, we consider that the referral request made by the councillor did meet the criteria that the Constitution requires. As our lawyer has said, the content and tone of the application suggests that the intention of the applicant is to develop this as a dementia centre. Although, as we've said, if you were to grant permission today, it doesn't pin it down just to a dementia centre. It pins it down to the Class E use class, which could be any number of different things.
I think a question that needs to be put to the legal officer, I guess. Okay, right. So any further... Councillor Rush, we're going to go to debate in a minute.
We're always, as a committee, we're always been told we judge the planning application for what's in front of us. Correct? In front of us, we've got a proposal. Planning permission is sought to introduce a dementia resource centre within the existing library unit. So to me, here today, our planning application is to either say yes for a dementia resource centre within the library or against. That's what's in writing, and that's what we've always been told. We go on what's in front of us. So why are we, I can't understand now why we're being told that we're here to judge on a change of use. Because I think, as we know now, as a change of use will, in the future, be a dementia resource centre. So I'm very, very confused.
Well, I don't think it is a question necessarily. I think we got into debate there, but so no, there's no need to answer it anymore because that's where we're at when we get to debate. But is there any other questions for us before I move to that point? Because it's important that we have a good debate on this. No further questions. Then the obvious then is to go to debate. Councillor Rush, do you want to add any more to that? Have you said what you need to say? And let it start.
I'll say it again, just put it on the record. As a committee, we're always told we're making decisions on what's the paperwork that's in front of us. In front of us, we've got, under the proposal, planning permission is sought to introduce a dementia resource centre within part of the existing library. And to me, that's what we're here today to be making a decision on, to have a dementia resource centre within the library. Am I correct or not?
It's not questions now, it's debate. You've moved to the other side of the wall now.
That's
your opinion, yeah.
Yeah, that's my feeling that we're under debate. So what are, you know...
No, with you.
That's, I don't know, I'm lost.
Councillor Skipstead.
I agree completely with Councillor Rush. So it says there, it says in black and white, we're here they're seeking to introduce a dementia resource centre. If we vote to agree this, it'll be out in the public domain that we've agreed this, because this is what will happen. That will be moved into that centre because it's been agreed, because those are the plans. And that's so we're being, on the one hand, that's what will happen, but we're being told, oh, no, 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 you're only being asked to approve it, change of use. But that, in reality, that is not what will happen. So I think that's an unfair decision for us to be asked to make.
Councillor Walsh.
Yes, and just to agree with my colleagues across the room, this has no real applicant. This has gone through a process, an internal process within the council, taking into account, and quite rightly, economic factors, etc., etc. But this is not a normal planning application, in my view. And so, therefore, I would have to reject it, I'm afraid.
Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Yeah, no, I agree with most of what has been said today. I think this should have just been a black and white, change of use application. We should have never been asked to determine what is going into that centre. And the other thing is that, I'd just like to remind members that actually, on the basis of what we've got in front of us, is what we're looking at today, is that unless somebody says otherwise, there isn't sufficient material grounds for us to be, rejecting this application. So, on that basis, in this current moment in time, I am decided to be, supporting officer recommendations, unless somebody says otherwise.
Councillor Anja.
Thank you, Chair. I'm fairly confused on this one because we are talking about change of use from F1 to Class E. And then we're also bringing in the dementia centre as well, obviously, which is within the Class E. Now, we are not discussing whether this space is sufficient or enough to be used as a dementia centre. Are we? To my opinion, if we really wanted a sufficient and bigger place, and that is a different platform where we could discuss this. And this should be discussed within the budget or where there are looking into the asset usage as well. In regards to the change of use from F1 to Class E, I don't see any harm in this application. The benefit, and I also somehow kind of disagree with the highways as well, that this place which has got lots of car parking spaces, and without any clear indication, I think the benefits are greater in changing the use, because this library will be better used and the space will be better used as well. That's where I am.
Okay. I must say you haven't cleared anything up for me at the moment. So, anybody else want to come into debate? Yes, Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Chair. So it's just to say, so we've heard quite clearly from our planning officers and our legal department what we are being told to consider, regardless of what's in front of us. And we have to think about the fact that any planning inspectorate or any planning inspector is going to see it from that same point of view. And people on the committee themselves have said, we have no problem with the actual legal position of changing the class use. So I struggle that if we do go against this, we don't really have any legal basis to do so, because members of the planning committee have already said, if it was just the class change, that's not an issue. So we're kind of contradicting ourselves by objecting to it. Just my opinion.
Yes, debate.
Chair, yeah, I think we're almost all in the same place. Is there any possibility that, that's no question, that this could somehow come back? We've debated it, we've said, okay, fine, but we are worried that it will be perceived, wrongly perceived by the public, that we have agreed to the Dementia Resource Centre going there. And that is not the case. We've agreed to change of use. So is there any possibility that this meeting, without angst or anyone being upset, it is kind of brought to a close at this point, and then another paper is written that just says change of use, to which we would all agree? Or can we possibly, and I take legal advice, just agree to that today, that somehow the dementia is struck off, the paper is changed?
Okay, can I just add in there that if you were to come back here next week with just that written in there, you already know what's going in or what's proposed to go in. I don't see any benefit in doing that because it's still in the back of your mind what's on that paper. I agree totally with you that that's what should have been before us today, the change of use to whatever, from F to E. It is my view that's not what the paper says now. Obviously, Emma may be different to me, but I don't think anybody can take into question legally what that top line says. It doesn't say change of use from F to E. I have to keep doing that. It does say to include a dementia centre. So you can't blame committee for taking that into account. Speakers have turned up today to speak on that behalf, including their ward councillor. And I think we've been led down a road we shouldn't have gone on. Having said that, now we've been led down that road, those that wrote the reports, those that did whatever. Now we've gone down that road, I think it would be our public duty to vote on that, what we've got in front of us. Defer to what? Defer to come back with, oh, yeah, you only got F to E, when you know full well what that means. And that decision is the administration's decision, or full council, if that's where it is. It's their decision. It's not our decision to make at all. I don't see the benefit in deferring at this point. I don't see where we're going to go with that, because I think we're just going to come back the same thing, aren't we?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, that's correct. And, you know, the applicant has made it clear what their intended use is. It is a dementia centre, as members have noted. That's exactly what it says in the report. But that is a Class E use. So in planning terms, we are granting permission for a Class E use in part of that building. And it's a planning decision. It's not a decision to move a centre. It's absolutely a planning decision about use classes.
Yeah, see, I get that. But my argument is it doesn't say that. And I get where they're coming from. It says on that top line, dementia centre. And everything that's come in front of us is about a dementia centre. And everything we've debated is about a dementia centre, whether there's enough car parking, whether it's a safe space, whether, you know, mixing people with dementia with you know, more socially is a good thing or a bad thing. You know, we've heard all that. And yet, all of a sudden, at the end, it's like, you know, F or E. And I get that. But what I'm trying to get from you is I don't think, I think we're open to more of a legal challenge to just go with F or E than we would be if we just went with what it says and decided whether the dementia centre should go in there. And if they want to bring another application for F or E, that's something they can do. There's still nothing to stop another application. I don't think you can rub this out with a rubber and put in what you want. It's there. And I think if you want to do a separate application, in my view, you should bring a separate application. The council should bring a separate application and let us decide on that. That's my view.
Chair, could I contribute to that? If this application hadn't been called in by a councillor, we wouldn't be, I'm guessing, we wouldn't be meeting here today as a committee, because it would be a simple application for change of use.
Well, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Public interest would normally push this to.
What concerns me is that because there's no reference to the dementia centre in the application, had it not been called in, it would have gone through potentially without any committee involvement whatsoever.
No, I don't think it would.
No?
Public interest would have pushed officers to bring it to us.
But just change of use?
Oh, yeah, by the way, I'd have to sign it off. Do you think that was going to happen without going to committee?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes, Councillor.
I think somehow we have to draw clear blue water between change of use and dementia centre. There has to be a legal instrument or a reason. I don't think that we have the appetite to bring on any legal challenges. We are basically all on the same side. We want the best for our residents. We want value for money for our taxpayers. We want all of those things. But in my view, there just is something intrinsically wrong with this, logically wrong with this, that the proposal does not match what came forward. And we as a committee don't want to be associated with a decision which says this is suitable for the dementia centre. We as a committee would agree to this is suitable for other use, but that's it. So how do we square that circle?
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else want to come in on that before I move on?
I would echo that completely, because I don't think it's a fair choice that we're being presented with.
Yes, Councillor Bond.
So just to point out that looking at the very top of item page 7, proposal under the application reference, it does actually say part change of use to retain part of Class F1 library and construct partition wall to use under Class E, use health centre clinics. There is no mention there of a dementia centre under that bit. But then further down it does, so the report itself contradicts itself. So, yeah.
Clear as mud, that bit. Thank you. It didn't help at all, did it? But I get you. This is the problem. This is the problem I'm getting. Now, yeah.
I don't know whether I can ask a question or not. Just if it was to change use, and you know the planning act is changing use of part of the library, could then, if that went through, could then the council decide what they want to put in there without having to go to planning?
It could be a delegated decision by an officer. It depends what it is, doesn't it? Whether they felt it had to go to committee or whether it was suitable. Remember, if it's city council, it's down to the chair and the group reps, effectively. So, yeah, but it could. They could call it in, same thing. I'm really struggling with this one.
Do you mind if I make a...
Yeah, Phil, yeah.
Thank you, Chair, through you. So, sorry to labour this point, but there are two completely separate issues here. One is the council in its capacity as not property developers, but the council's property and estates department and all the things that they cover and decisions that they are making under a different regime, different decision-making regime within the council to relocate or rationalise or whatever where the dementia centre is. That's completely separate. It's a completely separate decision-making regime. The other is the planning side of things. So the question being asked here is this an appropriate land use in planning terms? So you're not being asked to make a decision on whether it's right or wrong to move a dementia centre from one location to another. That's not what's under consideration here today. It's purely a planning decision. Is this use acceptable in this location? And to be fair, the report, it does talk about change of use. That's the description of the proposal. Later on in the report, the dementia centre is mentioned. That's because the application itself, in the information submitted with the application, it's clear that the intention there is to use this part of this building for dementia centre, but in pure planning terms, we're talking about a use class E, which is not necessarily only dementia centre. It could encompass lots of other uses as well. I know it's confusing, but that's why the report has been written the way it's been written, and that's why we're trying to make it very clear that there are two separate things going on here, and you need to make sure that you concentrate solely on the planning decision.
Okay, thank you. Can I suggest something then on this? That I don't know if we need to debate anymore, Roger, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think we're all where we're at. Unless you've got something that's different to add, I don't want to go around in circles of what's on the form. So
No, if I may, Chair, I just want to make I feel a very important point, is that, as the officer said, the intent was known to be used as a dementia centre. While it may be inaccurate, and I've got to be careful of my language, I feel that it may be perceived as misleading to have put this application through as a change of use when the intent for the user and the type of use was known. Why wasn't that simply put in there? It would have made life so much easier to have made it clear that that was what it was going to be. If you apply any other planning application, whether it be for a betting shop or a housing development or whatever it is, you know, there will be a clear intention with plans as we've seen today. You know, that would make it very clear. And to me, the title, I don't like to use misleading, the word misleading, but to me, that is what's happened here. And we're left in this situation where we are now. So that's the point I want to make. And I think it's caused us quite a little bit of embarrassment, but this debate beyond here. And that's the point I wanted to make, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to put the last word of debate, really, to legal officer, just to... Sorry, Emma, you've had more than your fair share today, but these are extremely important statements that are being made, and I'd like the final point to go to you before we go to whether we can get to a proposal on this.
Thank you, Chair. So obviously, the applicant has the intention, or has indicated their intention, to put in a dementia resource centre in this building. But we're not making a value judgment as to whether that's the right decision. That's the decision for the applicant as landowner as to whether or not they think that that is appropriate. What we're looking at is solely whether, in planning terms, this and the wider use class is appropriate in planning terms for this location. That's the question that members are being asked today. Not a value judgment as to whether it should be moved. It's simply, is this use and this use class appropriate in planning terms for this location? And obviously, as we know, the start point is the development plan, and then we look at material considerations.
Yes, Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. I have a slight issue with that. In terms, again, for instance, of highways, we heard evidence and presented in the report that they did the assessment specifically on this use in terms of parking, not as a general, it could be a GP surgery, I guess, which would have been a very different planning and parking regime associated with that, or another health centre that would have, you know, hundreds of visitors a day. So what I'm saying is an application which is made and then assessed on a specific criteria. So again, I go back to that issue that if it had been general, then we would have been looking at the full scope of Class E use that would be appropriate here, and therefore we could make a decision on that. That's my point.
The only issue with that, of course, is that there is only a maximum. There's no minimum parking. So you're stuck with that one anyway, aren't you? Okay. Would it be, I'm going to ask you, sorry, Emma, I have to ask you, I'm toying with a proposal in my head, but I'm hoping somebody else will do it, because every time I do it, I get in trouble. So, would it be reasonable, and I'm not asking you to tell me what to do, I'm just asking for your take, to propose that we go with officer's decision and we accept the change of use, but we ask that the decision to actually move the centre is not by planning. It's written down that it's not, we're distancing ourselves from that decision. That's up to the administration in the proposal. Could we word that? Am I allowed to word that to say, you know, committee are happy with the change of use, that's the planning rule, but we are not happy with the proposal for a dementia centre, and that is for the administration to take, not planning. Could we word that in?
So we're obviously making a decision as the local planning authority, and that's a statutory regime and we have to consider all of these things, and a decision notice comes out. That's a legal document, and that can't have a note to applicant to say any of that. However, obviously the debate will be minuted, and you can ask for things to be minuted and noted on our minutes. But in terms of a decision, your decision notice is a legal document, and that can't...
But that would be in the minutes that I'd said that, even though it's not on the decision. Yes.
Yes.
Well, and we've agreed it.
Well, does somebody want to put that rather than me, or something similar, if you're happy with that? Do you want to say? You have to say what you think is right. I can't. Well, I can.
Yes,
but I'd
yes,
rather
I
it wasn't from
understand
the
you're
chair,
in a
'cause
more
I might have a
delicate
cast and vote.
position. Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
don't think I will.
I will put that, yes. Along those wordings that I propose that committee votes in favour of the change in use to Class E, permits Class E use, and minute also that the committee does not deem it appropriate to mention specifically which organisation would use it. That is to come later after a debate and study with relevant bodies as to which would be the appropriate applicant for that use.
Does anybody want to second that? Councillor Skipstead. So you have a proposal, you have a seconder, so we go to the vote. Please use your cards that you've got on your table. So those in favour of the proposal, which is to refuse? Sorry, to agree?
Can you?
So this is to go...
I'm confused to refuse, yes.
So this is to go with the officer's recommendation?
Yes, to change of use only, yes, yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Against? Abstentions? One abstention. Okay, so in that case, the application is approved. I'm going to go on the camera now and say we do not agree with the dementia centre going in there. Thank you very much. Right, we're going to move on to the next item. It won't take long to get through these now, so let's finish these off. Thank you very much for all the debate. We were really, really confused, and thank you very much for everybody who addressed us. That was a difficult one, and thank you for the legal team. That's really good.
I'm doing the next report.
Yeah, I'm just going to pass it to you. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, item 6, then. We can get through that fairly quickly, hopefully. That's the start time of future committee meetings, planning committee meetings. I'm going to go to Karen for this, not Karina. Page 13 in your report, if you still need to read it. But anyway, what's the plan then?
Yeah, this is just a standard report, Chair, in terms of committee considering the start time they would like for the next municipal year, 2025-26. The recommendation in the report is that as the planning committee has been held at 1:30 p.m, that planning committee go with that time, but unless anybody else has got an alternative.
I've got no
particular
objections, no. I agree with your recommendations.
Should we stick with 1:30?
Yeah,
Need a
1:30
proposal
is
here, we
fine.
just agreed?
We could propose and second.
Proposed is Councillor
Yeah,
Mood.
I'll propose that we accept
Seconded?
that.
Second.
Yeah.
Councillor
all
McNally,
agreed.
all agreed? 1:30 is. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Right, okay, so that brings the meeting to an end. Thank you ever so much for everything today. Difficult one, but you really got stuck into it, so well done. And let's hope we've, well, we have made the right decision planning-wise, but we had to, you know. So thanks very much, and thanks to you guys.